Okay, so that number on the scale, it's got a real hold on us, doesn't it?
Hmm.
We're so used to thinking, that's the ultimate report card for our health journey.
Right. The be all and end all.
Exactly. But what if the real transformation, the important stuff, went deeper than just that single digit?
Well, that's what we're getting into today.
Yeah, today we're taking a deep dive into something called graceful body recomposition.
Hmm.
Forget just shrinking. Think more about reshaping, losing fat while actually building lean muscle.
It's a different mindset entirely.
It really is. It's about unlocking a stronger, more confident you, kind of from the inside out. And we've got some great sources to help us figure out how.
Absolutely. It's all about shifting our focus from just the, let's say, the quantity of our weight to the quality of it.
Quality, yeah. I love
And the
this.
materials we've gathered offer a really comprehensive look at achieving this. We're looking at everything from why simple weight loss and body recomp are fundamentally different to the nitty-gritty of exercise strategies, the critical role of what we eat, and, those often underestimated things like lifestyle and mindset.
Right, the sleep, the stress, all that.
All that. Plus, we have some genuinely inspiring stories from people who've actually, walked this path.
Great. So our mission today is to really pull out the most valuable pieces from all of this for you, the listener.
Yeah, cut through the noise.
Exactly. Make sense of it all, give you a clear understanding of how to approach losing fat and gaining muscle in a way that feels, well, achievable, something that sticks for the long haul.
Sustainable, yeah.
Okay, let's start with the basics then.
Hmm.
What's the actual core difference between just seeing a lower number on the scale and actually undergoing body recomposition?
Right. Well, what's really fascinating here, and our sources really point this out, is when we only look at the scale, we're missing so much of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
That dip in weight could be from losing water, which happens a lot initially, or valuable muscle tissue, or even in some cases, bone density. And, well, none of those are really ideal when we're thinking about long-term health and just feeling our best, right?
Definitely not.
Body recomposition, though, it's specifically targeted. It's about reducing body fat while at the same time actively building up our lean muscle mass.
So, okay, it's entirely possible then to weigh like roughly the same but have a completely different body composition. Your body looks and feels different.
Precisely. Think of it like this. A pound of muscle literally takes up less space than a pound of fat. It's denser.
Right.
So you could lose a significant amount of fat, maybe gain a noticeable amount of muscle, and the scale, well, it might not show a huge dramatic change,
Uh-huh.
but your clothes will fit differently. You'll probably feel more energetic, stronger.
Yeah.
And that's the real indicator of progress. The sources really hammer home that fixating only on the scale can be, frankly, misleading and even discouraging.
Yeah, because you're not seeing those positive internal shifts reflected in that one number.
Exactly. It just doesn't tell the whole story.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Now, why is this muscle building part so critical for this graceful body recomposition idea? It's more than just looking toned, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Much more.
Yay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of our metabolism, muscle tissue is what we call metabolically active.
Okay.
Think of it like an engine that's always running, always burning fuel, even when you're just sitting there at rest.
All right.
Our sources explain that increasing your lean muscle mass actually raises your basal metabolic rate, your BMR.
Okay, BMR.
So basically, the more muscle you have, the more calories your body naturally burns throughout the entire day, just baseline,
Wow.
which, actively supports the process of fat loss. It's like, imagine gaining just a few pounds of muscle is like adding an extra small calorie burn throughout your day, even when you're not actively exercising.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. So building muscle is kind of like investing in our own internal, like, 2047 calorie burning machine.
That's a really good way to put it. An insightful way, yeah. And it's not just about burning calories, that energy expenditure.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources also highlight the vital role muscle plays in just our overall physical capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's fundamental for strength, obviously, but also balance, our ability to move freely,
Mobility, yeah.
and protecting us from injuries, especially as we get older.
That's a big one.
Huge.
Mhm.
So by focusing on building muscle while shedding fat, you're essentially investing in a healthier, more resilient body for the long haul. It's about function as much as form.
All right. Definitely sold on the importance of muscle now. So how do we actually do it? How do we build it? Our sources must have a lot to say about exercise.
Oh, yeah. Exercise is an absolutely essential tool here.
Yeah.
And our sources consistently point to resistance training as like the cornerstone for building that lean muscle mass.
Resistance training, so weights, bands.
Yep, that could
Yeah.
involve lifting weights, using resistance bands, machines at the gym, or even just using your own body weight effectively. Think push-ups, squats, lunges.
Yep.
The key thing is providing enough of a challenge to your muscles that it encourages them to adapt and, grow stronger.
So does that mean like endless hours slogging away on the treadmill are less effective for this specific goal, body recomp?
Well, less effective might be the right way to put it for the muscle building part. Cardiovascular exercise definitely has its place. Huge benefits for burning calories right now and supporting heart health. We need that too.
Right.
But the sources really emphasize that for body recomposition specifically, resistance training kind of takes the lead role.
Okay.
It's the type of exercise that directly signals your body, hey, we need to build and repair muscle tissue here.
Gotcha.
Plus, like we just discussed, that increased muscle then helps with longer-term fat loss because of the metabolic boost.
Okay, so what kind of resistance exercises are we talking about, especially for someone just starting out?
Yeah.
And how often?
Yeah, good question. For beginners, the sources generally recommend focusing on full body workouts and incorporating compound movements. Those are the exercises that work multiple muscle groups at the same time, like squats, lunges, push-ups, rows, planks.
Efficient.
Very efficient. Great for building overall strength. A basic beginner routine, kind of suggested across materials, might involve aiming for maybe 3 non-consecutive days each week.
Okay, so rest days in between.
Crucial. And for each exercise, maybe try 2-3 sets of, say, 8-12 repetitions. The real focus, especially at the start, should be on good form, quality over quantity.
Right, not trying to lift super heavy right away and hurting yourself.
Exactly. Form first, then gradually increase the challenge.
That sounds pretty manageable as a starting point. What about the cardio then? Where does that fit into this weekly picture?
Cardio still plays an important part, like I said. Primarily for burning calories in the moment and definitely for cardiovascular health. Can't forget that. The sources suggest finding a good balance and probably avoiding doing, excessive amounts that might interfere with muscle recovery.
Right.
They often differentiate between steady-state cardio, like a brisk walk, a light jog, cycling at a moderate pace,
Okay.
and high-intensity interval training, or HIIT.
HIIT, yeah. Hear a lot about that.
You do. It involves short bursts of really intense exercise, followed by brief recovery periods. And there's some evidence suggesting HII can be particularly effective for calorie burning and might even positively impact muscle protein synthesis.
Interesting.
So a reasonable approach might be something like 30-45 minutes of cardio, maybe 2-3 times a week. Ideally, you'd schedule these around your strength training sessions, maybe on different days or after you're lifting.
And I think our sources even give us sort of sample weekly plan for beginners.
They do, yeah, which is super helpful visually. It typically lays out those, say, 3 days of full body strength training we talked about, maybe a couple of days for moderate cardio, or perhaps one HII session if you're up for it. And crucially, it always includes scheduled rest days,
Right.
which really highlights how vital it is to give your body that time to recover and rebuild.
Ah, yes, rest. It feels counterintuitive sometimes, doesn't it, when you're motivated and want to keep going?
Totally. But our sources really, really underscore its importance. It's not optional for progress.
So what's happening during rest?
Well, rest and recovery aren't just about, sitting around doing nothing. They're actually active processes essential for muscle repair and growth.
Okay.
For instance, during deep sleep, our bodies release growth hormone, which is absolutely crucial for rebuilding that muscle tissue you challenged during your workout.
Ah, okay.
Adequate rest also helps regulate the hormones that control our appetite, like leptin and ghrelin, and our metabolism in general. The general recommendation tends to be aiming for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night.
Quality sleep, yeah, not just hours in bed.
Exactly. And incorporating 1-2 full rest days into your weekly routine. This helps prevent overtraining, lets your nervous system recover, and allows your body to adapt and get stronger.
Okay, so we've covered the movement side resistance, cardio, rest. Now let's talk fuel. What insights do our sources offer on nutrition for this graceful body recomposition?
Nutrition is, well, it's absolutely foundational. You can't out-train a bad diet, as they say.
Right.
Our sources consistently emphasize the vital role protein plays. Protein is for repairing and building muscle tissue after you've worked it.
Okay, so how much are we talking?
The general guideline suggests is usually somewhere around 1.2 to maybe 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day.
Per kilogram, okay.
And it seems beneficial to spread this intake somewhat evenly across your meals throughout the day.
And good sources.
Think lean options like chicken, fish, turkey, eggs, dairy like Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, legumes like beans and lentils, tofu, tempeh, lots of good plant-based options too.
Right.
That range, 1.2 to 2.0 grams, is a general guideline, of course. Your specific needs might lean towards the higher end if you're engaging in really consistent, intense resistance training.
Makes sense. And what about carbs and fats? Are they sort of the enemy here, like some diets suggest?
Not at all. That's a really important point. Our sources stress the importance of whole, unprocessed carbohydrates.
Right.
These give us the energy we need, fuel for our workouts, and just daily life. Plus, they provide essential fiber, vitamins, minerals. Think veggies, fruits, whole grains like oats, quinoa, brown rice.
Good stuff.
Absolutely. And healthy fats are also crucial. They're needed for hormone production, brain function, absorbing certain vitamins.
Right. Fat-soluble vitamins.
Exactly. Good sources here include things like avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, fatty fish.
So it really sounds like the focus shifts away from just like harsh restriction or cutting calories dramatically and more towards genuinely nourishing our bodies with the right kinds of foods.
That's exactly it. The emphasis moves away from restrictive dieting, which often isn't sustainable anyway,
Right.
and towards what our sources often describe as eating for energy or eating for performance. It's about listening to your body's hunger and fullness cues. Planning balanced meals that include a good source of protein, those complex carbs, and healthy fats. It's about establishing a sustainable eating pattern, not short-term deprivation.
That sounds much more positive.
It is. And it's more effective long-term. It's like, instead of just eating quickly, try to engage all your senses sometimes. Notice the colors, the smells, the textures. This simple act can shift eating from just a task to a more mindful, nourishing experience.
And our sources also touch on mindful eating habits specifically, which I think is so important for just having a healthy relationship with food overall.
Yes, absolutely. These practices are key for building that healthy, sustainable relationship. Tips that come up include eating more slowly, actually tasting and savoring your meals.
Putting the fork down between bites, maybe?
That kind of thing, yeah. Focusing on whole, unprocessed foods as much as you can. Staying well hydrated, sometimes thirst gets mistaken for hunger.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Allowing yourself some flexibility, too. It's not about perfection. Occasional treats are fine.
Yeah.
And being aware of, any emotional triggers for eating. Are you eating because you're stressed, bored?
Right. Understanding the why.
Exactly. It's all about cultivating a more positive, balanced approach to how and why we eat.
Okay. Now, moving beyond just the exercise and the food, our sources highlight some other really significant pieces of this whole puzzle, these lifestyle pillars. Let's get into those.
Right. These are the factors that are sometimes overlooked but can honestly have a huge impact on your progress, or lack thereof. Sleep is a major one.
We touched on it with recovery, but there's more.
Definitely. As we mentioned regarding muscle repair, sources detail how critical sufficient sleep is for releasing growth hormone. But it also regulates fat-burning hormones, like leptin, which tells you you're full, and ghrelin, which stimulates appetite.
Oh, okay. So lack of sleep messes with hunger signals.
It really can. Plus, poor sleep impacts metabolism and insulin sensitivity, making it harder to manage blood sugar and potentially easier to store fat.
So consistently skimping on sleep can actually work directly against our body recomposition goals.
Absolutely. It makes the whole process harder. Our sources offer practical tips for better sleep hygiene, aiming for that consistent 7-9 hours, establishing a relaxing bedtime routine, maybe reading instead of scrolling.
Guilty.
We all are. And optimizing your sleep environment, making sure it's cool, dark, and quiet. Little things can make a big difference.
Okay, sleep is huge. What else? Stress is another big one, right? Something many of us deal with daily.
Indeed. Chronic stress.
Yeah.
It's not good. The elevated levels of cortisol, the main stress hormone that come with it, can really hinder both fat loss and muscle gain.
How so?
Well, sources explain how cortisol can actually encourage the storage of fat, particularly around the belly area.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. And it can also promote the breakdown of muscle tissue, the exact opposite of what we want. Plus, it slows down recovery after workouts.
Wow. Okay, so managing stress isn't just nice to have, it's actually important for results.
Very important. And the sources introduce several effective stress management techniques. Things like deep breathing exercises, which can calm the nervous system quickly.
Okay.
Incorporating mindfulness or meditation, even just a few minutes a day, can help. gentle movement like yoga or Tai Chi, finding creative outlets, and, a big one, learning to set healthy boundaries to avoid overcommitting.
Setting boundaries, yeah. That's tough, but necessary sometimes.
Definitely. And finally, on the lifestyle front, our sources mention NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Sounds very technical.
It does. What is neat?
It sounds fancy, but it's actually a really simple idea. NEAT is basically all the movement we do throughout the day that isn't planned exercise.
Oh, like fidgeting, walking to the printer.
Exactly. Taking the stairs, doing household chores, gardening, pacing while you're on the phone. All that stuff adds up.
Huh.
Our sources emphasize that incorporating more of this kind of incidental activity into our daily lives can significantly contribute to our overall calorie expenditure. Maybe more than you'd think.
Interesting. So little changes can make a difference.
Yeah, simple things. Taking short walking breaks if you have a desk job, choosing the stairs over the elevator whenever possible, maybe parking a little further away, just consciously moving around more while you're doing daily tasks. It all counts.
So it's really about creating this whole environment, this whole lifestyle that supports our goals from all these different angles: exercise, food, sleep, stress, daily movement.
Exactly. It's holistic.
Okay. Now, let's shift focus just a bit and talk about the power of our own minds in this whole journey, the mindset piece.
Ah, yes. This is truly crucial, and it comes up again and again in our sources, cultivating the right mindset. A lot of it boils down to approaching this transformation with patience, first of all.
Patience, yes,
Certainly.
not overnight results.
Definitely not. And kindness toward yourself. Our sources really encourage talking to yourself in a supportive way. Like you would talk to a friend who was trying this. Acknowledging the efforts, celebrating the small steps, not just focusing on the final outcome.
That's such an important reminder. I think we can often be our own harshest critics, can't we?
We really can. And setting realistic goals is also key. Maybe shifting away from just focusing on a specific number on the scale.
Right.
And thinking more about process-oriented goals. Things like, I want to feel stronger, or I want to have more energy, or I want to consistently get my workouts in this week.
Focus on the actions, the feelings.
Exactly. And celebrating those smaller wins along the way, like lifting a bit heavier or making it to the gym when you didn't feel like it. That really builds momentum and keeps you motivated.
And our sources also acknowledge that, setbacks are going to happen. It's not about being perfect all the time, is it?
Not at all. Perfection is impossible and, frankly, exhausting to aim for.
Okay.
Setbacks are just a normal part of the process. You might miss a workout, eat something off plan.
Yeah.
It happens.
So how should we handle them?
The important thing, according to the sources, is to approach them with self-reflection and understanding, not harsh self-criticism. Ask yourself, okay, what happened? What can I learn? And then get back on track gently. It's this idea of progress over perfection. Consistency and just showing up for yourself day after day, even imperfectly, that's what truly matters in the long run.
Progress over perfection. I like that. Now, to really bring all this theory to life, our sources include some genuinely inspiring stories of real people's transformations. What were some of the key takeaways from those?
Yeah, the stories of Clara, Malik, and Alina are really compelling. What stands out across all of them is this common thread of starting small, taking manageable steps.
Not trying to overhaul everything at once.
Exactly.
Yep.
Clara, for instance, she started by just adding daily walks and making a conscious effort to increase her protein at meals. Simple stuff. Malik began with quick workout routines he could do at home and got into the habit of prepping some meals ahead of time.
Practical.
Very. And Alina has shifted her focus away from years of restrictive dieting towards prioritizing strength training and really concentrating on nourishing her body with whole foods instead of depriving it.
And they all seem to emphasize the sort of emotional and mental side of the journey too, didn't they? It wasn't just about the physical changes.
Oh, absolutely. That came through really strongly. The importance of being kind and compassionate towards yourself throughout the whole thing. Malik talked about just starting even when conditions weren't perfect or he didn't feel totally ready. Just taking that first step.
Yeah, overcoming inertia.
Right. And Alina really focused on how she felt noticing her energy levels improve, feeling stronger, rather than obsessing solely over her physical appearance or the scale.
Nice.
These stories really just underscore the power of making those small, sustainable changes consistently over time. Graceful changes, you could say.
Graceful changes. Perfect. So as we start to wrap up our deep dive here, what are the core principles of this graceful body recomposition that we've really pulled out from all our sources today?
Okay, if we boil it down, I think the fundamental principles really revolve around shifting our focus beyond just that number on the scale.
Seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Finding a balanced approach to exercise, incorporating both strength training as key and cardiovascular exercise for health and calorie burn.
Right.
Nourishing our bodies properly with nutrient-dense foods, making sure we get enough protein, good carbs, healthy fats.
Fueling, not restricting.
Precisely. Prioritizing sufficient sleep and finding effective ways to manage stress. Those lifestyle pillars are non-negotiable. Incorporating more movement into our daily lives through NEAT, those little bits add up.
Okay.
And overarching all of it, cultivating that patient, kind, and consistent mindset. Treating it like a journey, not a race.
It really does sound like it comes down to those consistent, gentler habits, doesn't it? Rather than resorting to extreme, unsustainable measures if we're looking for a change that actually lasts and feels good.
That's the essence of it, lasting, meaningful change.
Okay, well, on that thought, maybe something for you, the listener, to consider. Think about just one small, sustainable habit you could maybe implement this week that aligns with these principles.
Just one thing.
Yeah, maybe it's a short walk each day, maybe adding a protein-rich snack in the afternoon instead of reaching for something else, or maybe just aiming for a slightly earlier bedtime.
Tiny steps.
Tiny steps. How might that single small step contribute to your own long-term journey of becoming stronger and healthier with grace? Something to think about.